DW AfricaLink.
They did their best, but I guess their best was not enough.
Very disappointed. Very, very disappointed. We were expecting maybe the game to go to like extra time or something, At least we could have had a better chance of like maybe winning or something.
9 African teams, one record-breaking moment. And then, one by one, they fell. From Ghana to Cape Verde, from the Ivory Coast to Senegal, the continent showed up in numbers we have never seen before. But then came the knockouts, and one by one, the dream started falling. So what happened? Where did the dream meet reality? And what does this World Cup actually tell us about African football today? That's what's coming up. Welcome to AfricaLink, the podcast connecting you to the stories that matter. I'm Lucy Riley, your host for today.
AfricaLink, every weekday here on DW.
Let's set the scene. In the group stage, African teams took points from Brazil, Belgium, Portugal, and Spain. Cape Verde, one of the tournament's smallest nations, captured headlines after their goalkeeper Vozinha made 7 crucial saves against Spain. DR Congo returned to the World Cup after a 52-year absence and reached the knockouts. Ivory Coast entered as African champions, carrying genuine belief. Yet, when the knockout pressure mounted, the continent couldn't deliver the final blow. At the time of recording this podcast, Egypt had yet to play Argentina, and Morocco had yet to play France in the quarterfinals. The question that keeps coming back: is Africa closer to lifting football's biggest prize, or are we still stuck telling the same story every 4 years? To break it all down, I'm joined by sports analyst Abigail Sena and Betty Yawson. Welcome to AfricaLink.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Betty, 9 out of 10 African teams reached the round of 32, and then they started falling like dominoes. What is the common thread here?
Well, initially, I think I had a conversation with Demika and one other guy earlier, and I actually thought that our African teams were proving something different. I actually said that the story of them progressing to the next stage was one of the biggest takeaway of this year's tournament, because we had seen that most of the African teams were proving some sort of character and some tactical discipline on the field of play, unlike before where we were mostly relying on strength and also on our past glories. And this time around, we're seeing something different with our African teams, especially in the group stage. But then I think that was just a flash in the pan. It's that character to push through did not surface in the knockout stage. And as usual, I don't think it's a matter of tactics, but I think it's a matter of character, because most of our African teams went head to head with these countries. But unfortunately, you can mention Senegal, Ivory Coast, and all that. But I think the character to continue to hold on became a problem. Also, I think the issue of our African country is it's something that it's a prolonged problem. It's not a one-off thing that we can solve, because we are always touch and go. We don't really have a strategic plan. Mostly when these tournaments are coming up, we just put together teams. And I am not saying for only Ghana, but it's also cut across to most of these African countries. We don't really have a proper plan, a proper projection on how far we are going. We don't really know how we are going to plan properly. Unlike these other countries where they have a proper projection, they have plans. Even when the next World Cup ends, most countries are preparing for the next World Cup that will be in 4 years to come. But you come to the other African countries and it's just a relaxed party until we have qualified, until we have some few months to go. That is when we put in the relevant work. But then you can't yield any results when maybe a country like Argentina, Morocco, those big countries, Portugal, all these countries are putting in work immediately the next World Cup ends. They are preparing, whether they've qualified or not. They have a projection in mind. So this has been a problem. And until we solve that, no coach can even save you. No, you can have the tactics, but on the field of play, when you don't have that character to push because you don't have any proper projection, you still fall off. So I think that I was quite disappointed, especially with some countries like Ivory Coast and other that I really had a lot of, hopes because because of the way they started, especially in their groups. I was really disappointed in those countries that fell off because I was not really expecting that. But then anyways, it's the way Africans has always been. And until we start doing things right, I think that Morocco and Egypt will continue to push through because they've always had that projection and they've always had that plan in place for them.
Very interesting, Betty. I mean, Abigail, do you really agree with this? I mean, that it's not really a matter of tactics, but the problem is with the character and lacking a strategic plan. I mean, is it all doom and gloom?
Not fully, though. To a large extent, I do agree, but there's a bit of tactical play in there as well. Everyone talk about how the African side had to fall off. I am sad to start from Ghana's point of view because tactically, I thought we lost it against Colombia. If you're looking at a Black Star stat who were building without a Salisu or a Jiku in our defense, and after our last friendly fire prior to this competition, we thought we had found a way to keep especially Jonas Adjeti and Jerome Opoku together to at least form a certain makeshift formidable side in the absence of these two experienced names that I mentioned. I thought that we could have kept that shape. We had a game without Jerome because he picked a slight injury. Then Jonas was available. At least to my knowledge, he did not pick up any knock in the last game ahead of the last game. So he was very fit to have been able to compete. Lucasen came in with a goal, but I thought that did not justify his position in that last game. So to a large extent, I think that our managers on the African continent lacked a certain cutting edge when it came to especially managing games and making sure that we see through to the very end. We've seen a lot of instances where especially Ivory Coast who let a certain Germany beat them in the dying minutes of the game. We've seen how we have let certain games we could have easily won go because we couldn't really control the game till the very end. That I do agree. And I also think that take it or leave it, Africa does not lack talent, but our squad depth to a certain level was plagued by injuries. And I'll use Ghana once again. If we had certain players in our makeup, to talk of a certain Kudus, would have been the most comfortable in our midfield and even going up front to get the goals. Ghana, I think, just managed a goal against Panama and that equalizer against Croatia from Lucasen. So that cutting edge was also not there. You look at a French side that still struggles to even make Rancheki a part of their starting 11. Spain has the luxury of putting Mikel Merino on the bench, Conceição on the bench. And it tells you that apart from that starting 11, they can still get onto the bench and get individual players that will equally match up to the quality of their starting 11. And these are some of the things that really hampered our game when it comes to the African side and how we began falling off like mangoes from the tree during the knockout stages. I think that we can't single it out and then make it look like these teams or these individual players lack character to a certain extent. But our managers also failed to manage our games, especially getting to the tail end. Cote d'Ivoire just had to. We're just trying to just hold on. They could have held on to Norway, but they just let it go. Look at DR Congo. Also pushed England to the very limit, only to leave it late and also just relinquish that game they could have also won. So I feel that there are quite a number of pointers to look at defensive lapses here and there, how we defended our set pieces at that stage. And I think it's safe to say that maybe we are not that experienced when it comes to those knockout games that we'll play. Credit to the North Africans. I think that they have always shown the quality, even when it comes to our level here in Africa. And I am very positive that the two that are left there will be able to do something going forward. But there's a lot for all of us to learn as a continent, and then we pick some good moments from the other experienced managers that came in there, and then think about how to really, really look at our squad depth again when we get to the world stage.
Right. But Betty, even in defeat, I mean, some African teams showed something extraordinary. For instance, DR Congo leading England 1-0 at halftime after 52 years away from the World Cup. And then Cape Verde's goalkeeper, became a viral sensation with 7 saves against Spain in the group stage. I'm just curious, which African team's knockout performance at least impressed you the most, even in defeat, and why, Betty?
I will give it to Cape Verde. In fact, it's a whole festival in that country now, despite the fact that they could not get any victory. But I think that they really proved themselves, especially coming into this tournament for the first time. I would say that I was very impressed. As in their game against Argentina, I was just on my toe. Say, is this going to be the biggest football headlines in the because it looked as if they were going to win that particular game, and you could see how frustrated Messi was in this particular game, how it was turning out to be. So I would say that they really impressed me. I did not, when I was speaking to Eddie and the other guy the last time, I actually gave them the defeat. I was like, oh, it's going to be just a defeat for them. I did not rate them to be able to match them boot for boot in that particular game. So in all, I would give to Cape Verde. I think that they've really improved themselves right. And if they are able to work on this same character and attitude that they came into this World Cup with, they should be able to be a force to reckon with in their next tournament.
Very interesting. Look, Abigail, if we compare this World Cup to previous ones, do you see a clear line of progress, or are we still stuck in a sort of promise but no breakthrough pattern?
Well, I think that there's been a lot of progress, even though most of our countries are falling off from our continent. It could be heartbreaking. But once again, I want to talk about Cape Verde and 40-year-old Bozinga. It tells you a certain story that when we decide to go a certain way and stick to it, it does work. Cape Verde is doing a lot of things that people are not really paying attention. They have decided to also get actively into the, let me use the word, football ecosystem, and it's working for them. Don't forget, their women have also qualified for the WAFCON for the very first time. So it tells you that it is something that is cutting across. So clearly, this exposure would also allow them to now go in there, look for greater talent who will be ready and willing to join them because of the kind of path that they are charting for themselves. So forget about the fact that a lot got knocked out. We have also seen some great talent. If not for this stage, I don't think a lot of Ghanaians will be comfortable with some of the players that we have had. And I'll use Jerome and Jonas Ajiti again, because managers have come, managers have gone, and they're not really helping us see their potential. But at this stage, they took the opportunity, and this is the same Ghanaians who are now calling and asking why Jonas Ajiti was left out of the last game. So it is good in the light that we have seen what we can build with, or where we can build from as individual countries. I think that DR Congo will sit back and will want to watch that first half game with England again, and will also think through and ask themselves what they can do better. Cape Verde they have a reason to at least try to continue on and make their football story a very big one. So I will not take anything away from the African country. This stage has just proven that we can build from where we have left off.
And just staying with Cape Verde, because we're talking about them, are they exceptions or models that other African federations should study closely?
Well, not study closely, but I would say that they have made us know that if you put your mind to it, it would work. I also make this example of Moroccan women's football, because it got to a point they had to sit down and realize that, okay, this is where the world is going. We need to embrace it. They had a 5-year plan, and that included them playing series of friendlies with Ghana, because around that take it or leave it. Until recently, when we are talking about women's football, Ghana is a powerhouse. And so they had to come here, learn playing friendlies after friendlies at every level. And guess what? They were the same for that even due comes attention to ban Ghana's U17, clearly showing that if you learn, you get to master it at a certain point. And I think that that is what Cape Verde is doing. There's been total dominance when it comes to the Senegals, the Ivory Coast, the Ghana, the Nigerians, the South Africans, and all the other countries. And I feel that now they know that football is just not for the fun of it. It is making their individual players richer, the country richer, and so they are learning and want to make the most out of it. I think that they would want to go on and do their very best. They will keep learning, and very soon they get to rub shoulders with a lot of the big boys.
And ladies, we've been talking about things like, experience, strategic plan, having character. And Morocco is one of the African teams that has learned to win ugly, win late, win on penalties. And they're facing France on Thursday. What is it about Morocco or the Moroccan setup, either the investment or whatever, recruitment, probably even tactical discipline, that makes them so different? And can that be replicated?
I think that Morocco had a project that they were embarking on. And it's been a long-term project. As Abigail stated earlier, some time ago, they were playing friendlies, especially their women. They were playing friendlies with our women, national team in all ages, and even organizing friendly tournament with the other African countries. So they have a project. They want to dominate football, and they are investing in it. They have built one of the biggest, sports facility in Africa, in Morocco, and they've invested heavily in that. This is this type of project that I want to see most of our African countries embarking on, because I will take Ghana, for instance. With Ghana, now that we are back from the World Cup, it's going to be the same conversation. Who did not do right? Our coach is off now. There will be another new coach that will come. When the time is, getting near for us to start qualification, we call because as for talent, we don't lack. So we bring talent together, we qualify, and then we will be there. Tournament is getting near. We bring talent together. We don't have proper plan. We don't have what we want to achieve. When it's tournament is almost near, then we say, oh, when we go, we want to, then there will be this fake assumptions or promises. We can qualify out of the group stage. We can do this. But with Morocco, they are not just talking, but they are acting. And you can clearly see how they are projecting their football. Morocco performance in 2022 World Cup should give you a clear picture that they know where they are heading to and how far they want to go, and the kind of investment they are doing in their football. So it is not just a mere participation, but they want to make a statement for themselves. And that cuts across the kind of talent they bring in, the kind of coaches they bring in, the kind of investment they want to do, the kind of competitions they want to engage in, just to make sure they are fully ready for such tournaments. So I wouldn't be surprised if they are able to go head to head with France and even probably be able to dominate France and get a victory. I wouldn't be surprised, although that is going to be a very tough game for them. But it wouldn't come as a surprise to me if Morocco is able to beat France. And that's because they are on a mission. And I wish that most African countries will learn from the project that Morocco has started and how far they are going with this project. Morocco is doing something we all need to pay very close attention to. I'm not mentioning Egypt because Morocco has really proven themselves in this past few years. Starting with their experience at the 2022 World Cup. So I think that it's about time that we also take into consideration, not solely relying because we have a Sadio Mane, we have a Jordan Ayew, we have the talent, but we also should have a proper project in place, a proper plan that we are working towards for such tournaments.
I can already see maybe the side that you might be leaning toward, Betty, and I'll ask you this later. Abigail, for fans listening across Africa, how should they feel about this World Cup? France plays Morocco on Thursday. So how should fans feel and why?
I think that for we fans, we should just continue to enjoy the game and root for Africa, represented by Morocco, but know that they also going to face some of the toughest opponents at this point in time. Maybe watch how France managed to save their face against a certain stronghold. How Morocco would also be able to do that. Yes, they've enjoyed that progress. Betty has said a lot. On the continent, they can still boast of some great tactical minds. You understand? After Begagi was leaving, we're asking who was going to be able to continue that dream for them. But Huabi has not done bad himself at all. They have managers that have gone through their ranks and so do understand what they do. Maybe we should just be content with whatever happens at this point in time, knowing that Africa had given themselves a good fight. But I do not expect Morocco to just leave it because it's France and Argentina. They will go all out, try so hard to continue to hoist the flag. Like we always say, if you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. And so we'll be looking out for certain great performances, especially from Morocco, who got to be in the last four of the previous competition. And so they have seen this before, but coming up against this star-studded France side, I'm really hoping that they have the tenacity and the zest and the guts to be able to stand them and hold them and overdo what Paraguay did in the last game that France had to play. So for fans across the world, maybe especially Africans, we just have to look on and hope that will turn on and turn up good and be able to continue in the competition for Africa's sake.
Right. Now, before we go, let's have some fun. A quick fire round. I'm going to ask you 3 questions each. Just be fast, no overthinking. And I'll start with you, Abigail. Ready?
Okay.
All right. Best African goal you have seen at this World Cup and why?
Brandon Thomas Asante, because that helped Ghana with the first 3 points.
Okay. One African player.
Abigail and Thomas Asante.
All right, Abigail. One African player who deserves way more attention that they're getting.
Jerome Opoku.
All right, interesting. And finally, who do you think will lift the trophy?
Morocco.
Okay. All right. Okay, interesting. Betty, let me come to you. Are you ready?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, which African coach has impressed you the most this tournament?
I think the Cape Verde coach. He's been very impressive. Yeah.
Okay, if you could put together an all-star African 11 from this World Cup, name your captain and why them?
I would choose the DR Congo captain.
And why?
Because I think that he really, I've forgotten his name though, but I think that during especially the game against England, that guy really proved himself. He was one of the players that I was watching out for in that particular game. And I think that with a country like DR Congo and the kind of game that they put up against England, he was always in my eye because he was playing so well. And I am choosing him because of where they are coming from and how he was proving his leadership on the field of play.
All right.
Yes, in Demba.
And finally, the one African team you want to see host a World Cup and why?
I won't say Morocco because Morocco. The attitude they put up at the AFCON was not a good attitude. So I wouldn't say Morocco. But if it's one thing, the problem is the facility. I don't want to also say South Africa. Maybe Ghana. I'll give it to Ghana if we're able to get our facility right.
Everybody is very happy. Ladies, our time is up and I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for your input, Abigail Sena and Betty Yawson.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Get the stories that are shaping the continent here on AfricaLink.
Africa's World Cup journey was once about qualifying. Then it became about surviving the group stage. Now it's about closing out games in the final 10 minutes against the world's elite. The gap is no longer talent. It is those last decisive moments. Much has been said tonight, but bottom line, what will it truly take for an African team to lift that trophy? Share your thoughts on Facebook at DW Africa. Tune in on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe to our DW Africa YouTube channel to stay informed on crucial stories like this. This show was co-produced and edited by Isaac Mugabe. I'm Lucy Riley. Bye for now.